Well, a big day for Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated and for Ohio State football fans anywhere because finally we have a football schedule. And I know we said that, about 2 months ago, but that wasn't the real schedule. Now we have the real, officially official schedule for the 2020 season. It won't change. Maybe they'll play a game on a Friday instead of a Saturday somewhere, but the teams, the dates, the opponents, everything is locked in. And we are awfully excited that we've got some football to talk about here in 2020. I'm Brendan Gulick with Adam Prescott. Let's run through the schedule real quick just so you have an idea what it is in case you haven't seen it already. Buckeyes will open against Nebraska at home, and then they're going to play arguably their toughest game on the road at Penn State. That'll be October 31st. They start the month of November at home with Rutgers, and they'll make a trip to College Park, Maryland to take on the Terrapins. Buckeyes in the second half of the schedule will have Indiana at home, back-to-back road games in Champaign against Illinois and up at East Lansing, and then closing the season with the latest ever installment of the rivalry game. It's Ohio State and Michigan on December 12th. Adam, how's it sit with you when you see that schedule for the first time?
Looks like they got one primary hurdle. That's the second week of the season at Penn. Over there, I feel like that's destined to be a night game. We'll see. But after that, it looks like softer than Charmin to me. My opinion piece that I wrote the other day on Ohio State steamrolling the season just made me feel a lot more confident in that after seeing that 8-game slate. Obviously, Michigan's always a formidable opponent, but with the success the Buckeyes have had against them in recent years, it looks like one primary hurdle, October 31st at Penn State, and no Iowa, no Wisconsin, no Purdue. We'll see, but Buckeyes 8-0 sounds pretty good to me.
Oh, and no Minnesota either. I mean, you think about the way this schedule shook out, but I have a hard time seeing, looking at sort of the schedule grid across the conference. I'm trying to be pretty objective about it. I think Wisconsin's got a pretty easy schedule too, but I have a hard time thinking there's a team that has an easier schedule than Ohio State. And so, maybe the Buckeyes are feeling like, hey, you can't control who you play or when you play. You just take it one at a time, but the stars certainly seem to be aligning for them. And then, of course, in that week 9, right, we knew this earlier in the week when the conference came out with their with the format. Even if the Buckeyes weren't able to qualify for the Big Ten championship game, they would still play a 9th game, and they would play against the team in the West Division that finishes in the same place. So if they're runner-up or third, you'd play the same team over there. It's going to be an interesting fall.
I don't think Buckeye fans at this point, I don't think they'd mind if they played the University of Phoenix online, as long as they can see Ohio State playing some football against any opponent, start to feel some sense of normalcy again. But the other interesting part is going to see if Ohio State can play 8 or 9 games. We talked earlier this week about the lack of room in the schedule and no bye weeks, and the Big Ten has kind of backed themselves into a corner here late and still trying to make sure a team or teams can qualify for the college football playoffs. So, we say Buckeyes looking at trying to go 8-0. Maybe it's 7-0. Maybe it's 6-0. Maybe it's 6-1. Who knows? If a game's going to get sliced and diced at some point in there. The interesting part to me is what happens if you get late into a season and you have a Rutgers team that's 1-5 or a Maryland that's 1-6 or whatever, and they have a certain amount of COVID outbreaks. It's like, how motivated are they going to be to want to play or to try to make a game happen? Whatnot. It's there's a lot of interesting dynamics here shaping up, but you're right. It's definitely nice to at least be able to look at a schedule and get some clarity.
Yeah, there's 8 games in 8 weeks, so there's no flexibility built in. But man, I think Houston is a really good example of this. The Houston Cougars in the American Athletic Conference, they've had games canceled on them 4 weeks in a row, games that they were healthy and available and ready to play, but their opponents canceled on. And so as an Ohio State fan, you'd like to think that there's a supreme level of confidence in what they're doing in Columbus. I feel better about it because of what the Big Ten medical subcommittee did as part of this task force. I think there's a good chance that this can go off without a hitch. But remember, as an Ohio State fan, it might not be up to the Buckeyes if they play every week. If Maryland or Rutgers all of a sudden has more than 5% of their players testing positive for COVID, they might be in a tough spot. So I guess to me, the question I want to ask you off that is, is there a minimum number of games in your mind that you think Ohio State or really any team needs to play to be able to legitimately prove themselves to a selection committee that they're worthy of being considered for the playoff?
In my mind, it's hard to say. I mean, especially after hearing the College Football Playoff Committee come out and say they're going to pick the 4 best teams just off who they think are the 4 best teams. If I had to guess, I would say maybe 6, 5,
Okay.
or 6, it would get a pretty good sample size of, recognizing what a team is or who they are, what they're capable of. I'm not sure. We saw a game recently that was canceled. No positive tests, just contact tracing that they canceled. So, like we said, I guess hang on to your seats and see what might happen. I would guess if they can play 75% of that schedule, 6 of the 8 games, I think that's a fair, kind of sample size to say, all right, the Buckeyes or, Michigan or whoever, is good enough to compete for the playoff. I think it's really interesting, too, that the 2 biggest schools that are putting up the strongest fight the last month, Nebraska and Ohio State, are going to play each other in week 1. I don't know if that was a little subtle jab by the Big Ten, or can't imagine that was completely, random or whatever. Maybe it was a little bit by design, but Nebraska and Ohio State getting exactly what they wanted, and they're going to get each other to start this thing on October 24th.
Not only that, Nebraska, on top of traveling to Columbus to play week 1, they go back home and they get Wisconsin week 2. I mean, they easily have the most difficult first couple games of anybody in the league. Yeah, right. But
it should be interesting. I'm excited.
I am too, man. I'm looking forward to finally having some real football to dive in and talk about. And, now it's time to start thinking about what this team is going to look like on any given Saturday if, players are not healthy or not available. And we're going to finally see what this incredibly talented and highly touted freshman wide receiving group looks like. We're going to see what the secondary is capable of after losing 3 starters to the draft last year. So it just feels good to finally be talking about, football strategy instead of, are we going to play? Are we not going to play? What's the latest report? Who said this? Can that be verified? It's nice to finally have some football in front of us for sure. All right. Well, that'll probably wrap it up for now. And of course, if anything breaks in the meantime with Ohio State, we will certainly have you covered here on Buckeyes Now. Remember the Big Ten Ohio State's press release did specify that games could be moved to Fridays, but they would announce those at later dates. I assume some of that's going to be dependent on the TV schedules. So for now, plan on 8 consecutive Saturdays of Ohio State football. Cross your fingers and do what you need to do to stay healthy. One last note, Gene Smith said to us yesterday, or I guess it was a couple days ago in a press conference now, he asked Buckeye Nation to make sure that when you are gathering with your friends and family to watch games, even though tailgating is not allowed, he really asked that everybody do so responsibly and safely so that hopefully the stadium can be full of fans sooner than later as well. So make your plans, have some fun, but find a way to keep health and safety in mind. All right, we'll see you next time right here on Buckeyes Now.